Good day everyone. In your kit for module 2 you will find the chassis packet, a twin flex wire, 2 switches, a bumper bracket, your bumper, the caster, 2 capacitors, 2 motors, 6 core wire, 2 O-rings, 2 resistors 10K, velcro black, 2 wheels, 4 30mm screws, 7 50mm screws, 2 16mm, about 14 nylon lock nuts and 14 standard nuts M3. This is what will be in your kit. What you will need to do this build: maybe a permanent marker, a flat screwdriver, a plier. If you have 5.5mm spanner, helping hand, 3mm drill, side cutters, solder, your board from the module 1, and of course a soldering iron. So before we begin with assembly, we need to do preparation first. So you will notice that when you look at the switch, the 3mm screws do not want to go in. That is because the holes are 2.5mm. So the first thing you do is you take your switches and you drill the holes bigger by 3mm. The next step is to take your bumper and bracket and your kit and to remove all the masking tape on both sides and to clean it with a bit of water. Okay, we're going to solder the capacitors to the terminals of the motors and the wires. So you will take the wire, cut it in half, strip one end, try to keep the legs as long as possible, because what we're going to do is to put them in there like that. And do the same for the other motor. When both motors have been soldered, choose one and mark the wire with the permanent marker on both sides, and here on the other side of the wire, just a bit from the top, mark it as well. We put that aside. This is 6 core signal wire. You will hopefully, it will be very easy to get to the individual wires. Six wires. We're going to take the yellow and blue and green and brown. On your two switches, after you've made the holes bigger, you will see there is a C, normal open, normal closed. So we're going to take one of these wires, the blue and yellow. It doesn't matter which one goes where. And we're going to put one wire on common and one wire on normal open. Right, and then we give it a twist. A very loose twist, just to keep them together, like that. Okay, and then with the green and brown, we're going to do the other switch. Right, brown and green, blue and yellow. Do not get rid of these two. We're going to use it in future modules, or when we are playing with the breadboard, so keep it safe. So this is the bottom of the chassis, so we must check. This is the caster holder. It goes in there, but sometimes you have to just turn it around. Let's just check here. Oh, okay, that side. There we go. Goes in there. So now that we know this will be the top side, this will be the bottom. On the top, take the Velcro, cut it in half. When you separate it, the rough bit, not the smooth bit, you glue one there. It's difficult to see the black on black. And the other side here. These go onto your battery holder from module 1. There. And there. Right. Take two. Make sure that these holes are pointing to the front, because those are our mounting holes for Legos and for strip board. Right, our top part. Again, just check. It might go easier the one way than the other way. Okay. 50mm M3 from the bottom through. Take a nylock nut and just put it in just to keep it together for now. There's another hole from the bottom to the top. Nylock. At the front, from the top to the bottom, but our switch for the bumper switch has to go in there. So we put the wire in like this, and then this goes to the outside. Put it in like that, like so, and again a nylock, keep it together. Take a picture, it'll last longer. Call me Bubbles, darling, okay. Now, when fastening these, do not over tighten them, because the chassis material is actually quite soft, and we use the nylon lock nuts for the reason that they do not come loose by themselves from vibrations and stuff like that. Okay, when you tighten, when you get close enough, it must still move or turn, but just be in place. Just be in place like that, and then do the same for all 6. Okay, like I said, do not make this too tight, because it will pull these 2 plates together and make the robot look like a very sad robot. So now we take the 16mm, and there's a little hole there. And a nylon lock nut, and this bumper bracket. So let's put the bumper bracket, this is the front right there. And we use 2 nylocks. Just hand tight, don't over tighten anything, just hand tight. The motors on the right hand side, we put the one that we marked with a permanent marker here on the motor bracket, and then another motor bracket and a 30mm. I recommend installing the bottom ones first, because that is slightly easier, and we use a standard nut. And then the top one, again with a standard nut. Okay, I see now that I put it on the right side, but if you turn it around, it's on the left side. It doesn't really matter, we must just keep in mind which one is the one that is marked. And we install the motors with the capacitors pointing inwards towards each other, not outwards, otherwise they will get in the way of the wheels. Okay, if both of them are in place, again only hand tighten, don't torque things, just nice tight. We take the wires through the hole in the middle here, and through the hole on top, and we take it to the back. These wires must go to the front, the ones for the switches. Okay. Caster wheel, 50mm nylock, and the two little fittings. Okay, there is a lot of play here. So when we tighten this nylon lock nut, we are only going to let it go in a bit and leave it somewhat loose, because it's not necessary for it to be tight very much. Next up, we take 2 standard nuts per stud. This will serve as our spacers for our board, just hand tight. Right, and now nylon lock nuts, 4 of them. You might have 1 or 2 spare nuts. I add 1 or 2 because sometimes you get a factory fault on the nuts and they don't want to work. So I add 1 or 2 extra. And now you also see the reason why you must not over tighten these when you install that lock nut. Otherwise this will not work. Method to my madness. Alright, and now we can install the wheels. And the battery compartment, battery slides in here and gets stuck on with the Velcro. Right. I usually take these and bend them over like this. And when I put them in there, that the plastic go in there as well. Because if you just put the piece of wire in, it wears out very quickly. So I bend it over and then put it in there so that the plastic helps keep everything together. So I'm just going to make sure that it makes contact. Yes, everything is good. Okay, now these two. So the marked side is that one. So it's this side, left side. So we need to remember it has to go in there. But now we first need to figure out the direction that it has to turn in. And for that, we're going to use a piece of jumper wire. Pause. Okay, so your robot might be still have the program on from when you were experimenting. So we're going to hold the button in and turn power on so that it goes in bootloader mode, and then release the button. So this motor is for this side, and what I'm going to do is while I'm sure it is in bootloader mode, take a wire from 5 volt onto, that says motor 1, so it's PWM1, and we're going to install it like that, and we're going to just touch the wire here and see, okay, this motor was turning in reverse, so I have to install it this way around. Just make sure, there it's going forward. Okay, take out the wire, disconnect the power, and install my wires. Okay, so if you find that your robot goes forward when it's supposed to go backward, you must just swap these wires around, or this one, for the motors, left, right, right, left. Pretty straightforward. So I've trimmed my bumper wires, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one piece of scrap wire from let's take the yellow and stick with yellow. From C7 into my breadboard, and a piece of green. From C3 C3 to my breadboard in a different column. Okay, and I'm going to take that yellow one and I'm going to shove it in there as well in the same column as C7, and the green in the same column as C3. Right, and now I'm going to take another wire, maybe a piece of blue, from 5 volt to my breadboard. And from ground, I'm going to take that first ground to my breadboard. Okay, so this brown that comes from my switch, we remember brown and yellow work together, that goes to 5 volts. There. Okay, and the blue also goes to 5 volts. If it wants to go in there. Bastard. Ah, there you go. Okay, and then our two 10K resistors. From yellow to ground and from green to ground. So what these resistors are doing, they are called pull down resistors. So the pin is always in ground when the resistor is being pulled to ground, and when this button is pressed we get a positive 5 volt. But because we can't have 5 volt and ground shorting each other, we put the big 10K resistor in between so it doesn't short. So this is called a pull up resistor, but it's also a high value because if we short it on the switch, we get 5 volt on our pin, but we don't want 5 volt and ground at the same place. It's going to create a short. Right, and now the last but not least, we have to install our bumper itself. So we're going to put on the O-ring on both sides, put it in place and just slide the O-ring in place. It sounds very easy, but it's quite difficult to do. It looks very pretty on paper, it doesn't work. And that's it. Half about chassis module 2. The next video we will go into the programming.